If you run a property management business, you definitely had a situation where the vendor sends you an invoice, needs the payment immediately, and you just issue the payment, but then you got busy and forgot to apply the charges to rental owner statement. In a situation like this, you're basically paying things out of your pocket, and if you do that a couple times, your company financial will definitely suffer. This, by the way, used to be my problem, and I spend so much time every single week double checking everything, and honestly, it's just a very tedious and very lengthy process for me to go through. At some point, I realized that I actually need to start delegating it to AI agents. So in this video, I'm going to share with you what you are currently doing as a property manager and how I'm using AI agents to delegate all the accounting process for my 800 unit portfolio in my property management company. The traditional workflow requires 11 steps and it's almost manual every single time. If you look at the diagram here, the very first time is that the invoice will arrive, and sometimes vendors drop out the invoices manually. Sometimes it's electronic in your inbox. Sometimes it could also be text message. And basically what I was doing before was that I accepted any sort of methods, and that created a mess in my entire process. But after a certain period of time, I started only accepting or moving all the invoices into an inbox, a Gmail. Once I have that invoice, I basically upload that invoice to my Buildium account or any PMS, just depends on which software that you're using. And I will find a work order or task ID to kind of match that invoice. And then I would select the right invoice, enter the amount, enter the date. And what's time consuming here is that sometimes I also need to summarize the job description, because a lot of vendors, when they're writing down what was done, sometimes it's a little bit too concise, sometimes it's too much information that doesn't even fit into rental owner statement. So I have to summarize it over again so that it fit into the format that I want. And after that, I will look for a task ID, basically to match it so that I can change the status of the task and let the tenants or vendors know. And once I'm all done, I will also look for a duplicate, making sure that I'm not double paying or double processing the same invoice. Because guess what? Once I pay out to the vendor and book it to the rental owner statement, the owner at some point will ask for a refund, and I'm basically out of pocket as well. After all of this, it goes into a spreadsheet, which is much easier for me to track everything. And because the workload is so much, I usually wait for a certain payday. And for us, it's every Fridays. And then I will process all the charges and then verify everything manually and issue the payments. And this is honestly the typical accounting process for a lot of property management companies out there. And on top of all of this, if you started adding in-house technicians with their timesheet and all the other stuff, this is where things started getting very messy. And that's what drove me into start building the AI automation. And if you look at the right-hand side, I'm trying to get Claude to handle most of the information. Anything paperwork, anything that's non-productive, meaning I'm not really generating additional sales and additional income. I want Claude or any AI model to act like an agent to actually handle the paperwork for me so that I'm not dealing with all of that. AI automated workflow compress 11 steps into 3 steps only, and it only requires me to be in one of the steps. First thing first, I want the AI to be drawing all the information from my inbox and actually enter all the information into the rental owner statement based on the format that I really wanted. Number one, I wanted to make sure that vendor is correct. I wanted to make sure the amount is drawn from the invoice. And it matches the task ID. It also checks the duplicates. And by the way, I'm also going to process the invoice in a little bit so that you can see how it plays out. After we have this set up, then all I have to do is to actually review this suggestion, review what was done, because the QC part is kind of like checking other people's work. I still want to check the AI agent's work as well. So I'm using this as an opportunity to kind of wash all the description, all the numbers, and maybe invoices, just scan all the information very quickly so that I can constantly enter the charges for this specific invoice. After the invoice, I can hit post it to charge, and then Claude will handle the rest of it, which is enter into a tracking sheet for me, post the charge on rental owner statement, and go back to the test and change the status so that I don't have to do any of that. And this honestly makes the whole invoicing process only less than 5 seconds per invoice, which is a game changer for me and my team. So on the right hand side, this is the dashboard that we're using to process all the vendor invoices for our management company. And on the left hand side, you're going to see a lot of labeling here. Basically, every time that the invoice gets sent to this specific inbox, we actually have the agents to auto-label it and then parse the information into the dashboard. So a lot of invoices that hit the inboxes here, you'll get cleared out right away, but you're going to see that invoice log and obviously post to Buildium. So I'm going to show you exactly how it works. So right now, I actually don't have any invoices. So I'm going to just upload one invoice here as a demonstration. Choose file, this invoice. Now that I uploaded, we're going to refresh it and let's look into the invoice and see if the number is actually accurate. So this is an invoice image. You're going to see that the job location is at 48 Sanders Boulevard. And the number here, this is the total cost. And it's tankless descaling. Okay, so that's the job description. So basically, it parse all the information here: property, address, description, the cost, and all I have to do right here is to type in, my markup. So in this case, I'll do 150 for the sake of making it easier. And the system, as you can see, already detect there's a duplicate because this invoice has been processed before. So I'm just gonna manually check that it's not a duplicate, and I'm going to try to match the task. Currently, for this specific invoice, there's also no Buildium ID, no task available because it's been processed already. So I'm just gonna create another one. And this is the part where it's really good because sometimes when we send out a vendor and there's no work order or task ID available, it's really hard to actually match it. And not having ID typically means that it's going to make the tracking a lot harder later on if there's any questions about it. So in this case, the bathroom paint under this property, obviously it's not this task, so I'm just going to create one. So now the task ID has been created. All I have to do is to double check and it'll actually take it to my Buildium account under this task. So it'll be an ID, all the necessary description in here. And the reason why this is important is so that later on we can go back to this task and see if there's any correspondence between the tenants, landlords, owners, and this is basically how we consolidate all the communication together. Now that this is all good, I'll hit not duplicate one more time. And now I can actually post this. So I'll select it and ready to post. $100, markup is 150. And I'll show you exactly how this works. Posting, still in process, and basically now it's being processed, and I can literally go down to this line to confirm that, okay, this is done successfully. And just one more time about this entire process, we want to be billing out to the owner before we issue the payment to the vendors. So after I get into this step, this is where my accounts payable or finance manager can actually issue the payment. If you're paying the vendors yourself, this is where you mark pay after you actually send out the payment to the vendors. So before we do that, let's also do one more check. How do we actually make sure that the charge has been posted? All we have to do is we're going to Buildium here, typing 48 Sanders. In this case, I will be checking the rental owner statement and bring it all the way down here. There's a 48 Sanders tank list, $150. This is how quickly the AI system can actually do for you. Because think about it, you avoid having to process the invoice, having to figure out the numbers, the description, entering the bills. You basically skip all the manual process for all of that. And you can literally just look at the information here and enter the charges that you want to post it into rental owner statement. And imagine this week, I have 68 invoices I need to process, including my own in-house technicians. That's a lot of paperwork that I need to process. So with the AI support, I can now process all the invoices in less than 30 minutes every single week. And this is a game changer. I also don't need to be double checking other people's work anymore. And just want to add one more thing on top of everything we just talked about here. This isn't just for vendors, it's also for your in-house technicians. I actually have a filter here to filter out a bunch of different stuff. So vendor invoices and technician jobs. I do actually have a lot of job being handled by our own in-house technicians, and how we're doing it is that we have a different logic, different process to calculate their hours. Basically, what we're doing is that we have them, the technician, to submit the task progress report or whatever form that you need them to do once they clock in for every single job site. And that's essentially what we're doing. So let me give you an example. For Jet, his submission here is actually through Google Sheet that we created. So there's a memo from the technician and you'll get turned into a proper format about what was done, from a third-party point of view, so that it actually looks much nicer and more professional on your rental owner statement. Once that's done, you also clocked in the hours that the technician's in there, and I get to do the markup. And in this case, I have the auto calculator, but sometimes I might say, okay, this job actually takes up a little bit more time and supplies. I'll do $95 instead. Again, this will automatically match the task ID or the work order on your PMS. And all we have to do is to click here and then hit process. So this is the same process that we're doing for vendors. And the moment that you can streamline the process like this, even seasonal inspection, recurring tasks, all that stuff will get handled by the AI agents. Yeah, honestly, this will save you so much time. And I almost forgot to mention, this not only will prevent you from building things out of your pocket, it'll also give you the profitability of the month, of the week, or even of the day. Just depends on what kind of reports or KPI that you want to look at. So now you might be asking, so Ping, how do we actually get this set up? Let's talk about that right now. The very first prompt that you should have to parse all the invoice from your inbox into your Buildium is that you're processing a vendor invoice from an email. Extract the following: the vendor name, total price, description, summary, and I always put max 200 characters to fit into the rental owner statement format. And after that, I always have the invoice number as well. If none exists, you always want to use a date, and then I also attach a property address in here. And the reason why invoice number is really important is because this is how I'm tracking if there's any duplicates. Okay, so once you have these 4 things done, you can return as a single row ready for tracking sheet. So I'm also creating another sheet on the site because a lot of property managers like you and I, when we're going through a lot of data, a lot of invoices, we just don't remember everything. So having that spreadsheet will allow the AI agent to always go back and refer what was done before or previously. And from there, we can do the matching a lot easier. I'm not guessing any number, I'm not guessing anything else, and I want to make sure the AI agents always prompt me if the confidence level is low. So this is the very first prompt that you should definitely steal from me right away. This will allow you to bridge that invoice from your inbox into your PMS. And then once that's done, then you just need to have a second prompt. The second prompt says, take this invoice row and prepare it as a Buildium bill. Steps will be match the invoice to a work order by task ID or property address. If there's no confidence, just flag it right away so that we can actually look into it. And always check the tracking sheet, which is the shit I just mentioned about the duplicates. The last thing will be draft the bill with the vendor amount description and everything so that it actually prepares nicely so that you're not touching the thing. After that, all you have to do is to find a date to go into your dashboard and look at the owner charges and just close them. Once the owner charge amount is confirmed by a human, this is where I go in there and enter all the numbers in here. Once I confirmed it, you'll turn that bill into a charge. And I don't have to even log into PMS. It's awesome. And like I mentioned, what's beautiful about this entire process is that you also don't need to go back into your task or work order and close them manually. It's just done automatically and it's just saving so much time. So this is it. This is exactly how I turn 4 or 5 hours of payday into 20 minutes of just processing invoices once a week. I create the entire file for you to follow so that you can set up the system yourself. Or if you want to use our existing dashboard to process all of your invoices going forward, you can also use the link below to book a call with us. If you feel like this is giving you some ideas on how to use AI in your property management business, like, subscribe, and comment below on what else you would like to see through AI automation. I'll see you on the next one.